We really should have waiting parents, not waiting children. Over 100,000 children are available for adoption through the U.S. foster care system, and 27% don't have anyone, like a relative or foster parent, in the process of adopting them. 60% are between the ages of 5 and 17, and 2/3 are part of sibling groups of 2 to 8 children. Hey listener, my name is Marcy Bursack. My husband and I chose adoption as our plan A. After blogging about our journey adopting a sibling pair, I began mentoring families right in my own living room. That passion grew into the Forgotten Adoption Option, a nonprofit I now lead as a volunteer while working full-time in the tech industry. From my blog, 3 books, app, and classroom lesson to now a 45-minute course called Foster Care Adoption Simplified, which you can find at ForgottenAdoptionOption.com, I've created practical, heartfelt resources to help families navigate the foster care adoption process. As you listen to this episode, I encourage you to ask yourself, who in my circle needs to hear this? It's often people in what we call helper professions, people like therapists, nurses, doctors, police officers, firefighters, social workers, and teachers like my husband. These are the people who tend to step forward to adopt children from foster care. But this work isn't only about becoming an adoptive family, it's also about becoming an advocate and ally. Every waiting child deserves not just a forever family, but a community of people who champion their future. Whatever led you to this podcast, I am thrilled that you are here. My mission is simple, to help every waiting child be with their forever family. And that's exactly why I host this podcast.
Welcome to the Forgotten Adoption Option podcast. In this episode, we're going to discuss how friends can support the foster care adoption journey. In my early 20s, I traveled to Ecuador for a mission trip and met a young woman who had packed a box of cereal in her suitcase. Hey, Haeli.
Hey, Marcy.
Haeli and I became instant friends as we sat on the top bunk sharing her snack. Truth be told, in preparing for this episode, I learned that what I thought was a box of Lucky Charms for years, this is what I thought was the story, folks, is actually Cinnamon Toast Crunch. But I think, if you understand cereal, it was more the friendship in the moment. Yes. But I found out that Haeli doesn't even like Lucky Charms. So I'm really glad we got that sorted out. And Haeli and I met before Haeli was ever married or even a mom. And I was a few years married. She's walked alongside me through my entire foster care adoption journey. And honestly, it's about time, Haeli, to have you on. My dad was part of season 1 and we got to hear the Grandpa Bob side, but you've been there since then too. And so, Haeli, I'm curious if you remember what went through your mind when you heard that Nathan and I were going to get licensed to adopt through the foster care system.
I wasn't surprised at all. I remember you telling me when I first met you that adoption was definitely your plan A. It wasn't something that you were thinking about. It's definitely what you guys wanted. So I was really excited to be able to be part of the journey with you, to walk with you. So I was really excited about that.
I didn't know that part. So listeners, Haeli and I are actually recording in my living room, which is where I used to coach families. Different couch. I think we've upgraded over time, but it's comfy interesting. Couch. It is a very comfy couch. I don't usually get to sit with my guests in person. So and it's not the pandemic, so we're not having to always use Zoom for things that are local, but it's interesting to hear that about you because I remember you would come over, we just hung out as friends. You'd be coming over and I think in my bedroom, we were doing P90X together. We just hung out and did life together.
Yes, we were working out constantly. We had to slow that down.
Well, then I did a 5K and you appear at the finish line.
My cheerleading uniform.
Your high school uniform, it still fit.
It did. It does not fit anymore, but it did then.
And Haeli, you've always shown up, which is, I say all of that because I think it was after our kids moved in that we had the idea of respite providers because Nathan and I did respite as a way to kind of build, if you will, our quote, foster adoptive parent resume. And so we knew that side of it, but then we're we need help for when we want to go out of state or just have a break. And listeners, respite providers, they can be community members like we have been for families we did, we're not related to or even new, but it can be family members and people in your circle of friends. You go through a short training. Every state's a little bit different, but it's mostly the same. But it allows you to care for children who are in foster care. And it's really for the overnight care. So it's so many units, so many nights is what the state provides. But you can't just leave children in foster care with random person. They actually have to be a respite provider or another foster family if you're going to let them stay somewhere overnight. So Haley, I think it was you and my dad. As I mentioned, Grandpa Bob is like season 1. So, or season 6 now, Haley. It's been a minute.
Oh man.
That you both said that you would go through this training for us. And I'm curious, do you remember what that was like? And then do you remember why you said yes when I was like, hey, could you do this for us?
Gosh, that was so long ago. I do remember you asking me about it, and I remember it being like a total no-brainer because I was more than happy to help however I could. And I was just excited to be able to use the capacity that I had to be able to walk and care and do what I can to show up and be part of helping you guys. And I love kids anyways.
Because you were doing babysitting at the time.
Yes.
So it was like a very natural thing.
Yes, it was.
I think your mom remembered more as we were talking through this
She
recently.
did.
She remembered you doing this.
I did have to like think about it because it was so long ago and so much has happened since then. And I talked to my mom about it and she's like, I remember you doing that. And I'm like, I vaguely remember. But yeah,
it was like a state application, and I think at the time my dad like had to do videos online or something.
Yeah, it was online. Yes, my mom had to brief me on that as well because my memory is just not great. But I do remember. Yeah, I was more than happy to do anything I could to be able to support you guys,
and it was such a help.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it was like you were kind of at the mercy of if you kind of let an agency know, like either your licensing agency or the state in general, like, hey, we need a respite provider.
Yeah.
You're sort of just in this roulette, which we met some wonderful people that way. But I remember, and this is in my book, The Forgotten Adoption Option, like we have a whole list of questions we asked them as we were caring for their boys. And then later there was an 8-year-old that we also cared for. But it's really like, you just don't know. You don't know who you're getting paired with. And for us, we were like, we're in this for the forever game. And like, we don't want to just kind of not end up with someone we feel that we can trust, that would maybe see our kids more than once. And so while the legal process sorted out and our kids were still in the foster care system, there were a few times that my husband and I went out of town and you actually stayed with our kids. So you were like doing some weekend stuff, maybe it was an anniversary trip. Other times you actually dog sat for us and took care of our house. So we're actually sitting in the living room that eventually became like our bed moved into here while we got some flooring work done and like you didn't care, took care of it. So I'm curious, so for listeners who might be like, okay, Marcy, I really don't think I'm supposed to be the one to adopt. I'm curious, if you could share how their lifestyle might help them support a friend in a similar situation. Like what could you tell them they could be doing or how to know that, like you could do this?
I think that each situation is different. So I think I just looked for opportunities to be able to serve in whatever capacity that I could. And I think it's really easy for people to like write it off and just say, I can't help. If I can't help in this way, then I just can't be of any help. And that's not true. That's not the case. It's just about like figuring out like where can you serve? Like where can you be of help to whoever your friends are that are walking through that? Because it is important to be able to have friends that you can rely on, that you know, because the process is so long and it's so hard at times, and it's good to have the people that know you the most to be able to like help hold you up and help like just be supportive and be there whenever you need them. And it's honestly a joy for me to be able to step up and do that, because I'm just so like mind blown by this whole process that you and your husband have walked through. And it's just been amazing that I've just get to play a small part in it. And I think that there's so many people that want to help, but they just don't know how to help. And so I think being honest and being forward with people, like this is how you can help me, and being able to say, okay, well, here's what I can do. Here's what I can offer. And even if it's just being a listening ear, I remember there's so many times where like we would just need to talk for a while, and you just need to like process everything that was going on.
Heavy,
and you needed support, and like support can look different for different people, but for you at times it was just me being there to sit with you, Sometimes you needed conversation. Sometimes you just needed to talk. Sometimes you needed just to sit there and just know that someone was there beside you, walking with you through this. And so I think everybody is able to help in some way. It's just about knowing where and how you can, but not being afraid to like ask someone that is walking through this process of foster care and adoption, like, how can I step up in this way for you? And I think that you'll hear plenty of ways that you can support, because they need it. People need it. And
this is so fascinating hearing it like after the fact, but hearing your heart in it, because it's like you were so intentional about like, I'll roll up my sleeves, like you just let me know, because there were things that were just so extreme for us. Like we didn't know that we'd be traveling across state every month.
Yeah.
And it felt like, I don't know that I ever apologized and said, Haeli, sorry to ask again, but like, it was like you were on our team and we were like, all right, this month's visit's this Saturday. Like, could you do this? And like, it's just, like there, it just was like second nature that we're like, okay, if Haeli can't do it, it's cool. We'll figure something else out. But like, it just kind of became part of the rhythm of like, this is how we get through this season. Like we just plan it towards it and never had to worry about our dogs. And it's mind blowing to me as the family that was like, there was so much going on and there was just so many unknowns, but yet you were just consistently like the friend of the family. My kids still call you Miss Haeli. Like you're this special.
Oh my gosh,
you're almost like Mary Poppins to them, because like you came into their lives. You did really cute hairstyles with my daughter when she was little. Like you're just like this like part of our family unit, because you've like been in it and walked alongside of us.
Oh.
And I'm curious, Haeli, kind of thinking, because at that point, I mean, you were single, so you weren't. Now you got kids, so it might look different to show up now. So I'm curious if there's listeners that are thinking, well, that sounds really hunky-dory when you don't have all these other dependencies and responsibilities. Can you think of like, if in your current state where you're married, you've got a couple of young kids, how do you think you would walk alongside a close friend going through this now? Like what would look the same or different?
I think that communication could always be the same. Like you can always find time to make a phone call and be able to just make yourself available for people that are walking through this. But also like having young kids, like being available as a family unit to be able to like walk alongside, so that you don't feel like you're just the people that are walking through foster care and adoption. They're carrying so much, they're doing so much, and they're trying to like stay the course, and it's just hard work to do. And so I think that like, hey, look, let's meet up at the park, and like the kids can play, and like you and I could sit down and we could reset, and we can like, you can work through what's going on in your mind, and being able to like offload, because sometimes like you just need moments of like, okay, I need to pause and I need to process everything that's going on in my brain so that I can like breathe and then keep going. And sometimes it just takes a second to be able to do that, to breathe and exhale and then be able to keep going. And I think that, my kids, like they love to meet people. They love to be around people. And so like what better thing to do than to like open up your own home, open up your own, self, and however you can be of assistance, and let my kids like be a gift as well, like, so people that have kids, like you are not like shut out of being able to help. Like there's just a different way of going about it. So, I mean, I'm all for it. My kids are all for it. And I think, kids in general, they just love to be around friends, and what better way to serve than that?
Just the walk. That's like so your heart, because that's for us. You were just like, I'm just here, like I'm here to ride this out. And so I'm curious, as you think back, because you were really part of that inner circle where
I was,
when we blogged, like Nathan had said, okay, 2 rules, like we never bad talk the bio family and we never explain why our kids are in care. But you actually have more information on probably than anyone on like what the actual backstory was, because you were part of that circle for us. And so listeners, I'm just being very candid that like, I'm still not going to tell you, but But like Haeli walked that with us, and
Yeah.
she understood the dynamics at play. And I remember, because you were just there as a friend, like you were there, and so I knew I could trust you. I knew that like there was confidence in the things I would share with you, that you weren't gonna. I mean, social media is so different now than it was then in general, but like you weren't gonna go tell
Blast
3 other
it somewhere.
people.
Yep.
Yeah, like it wasn't gonna come
Yep.
back on me to like process what I understood and process what I was seeing and hearing. But I'm really curious, because it can seem so foreign, right? Like to not be the one walking and going through the system and meeting these people and being kind of bounced around as the adoptive family in that scenario. I'm curious for you, like, what was it like to like kind of secondhand process ups and downs with us?
Oof. That was emotional, and I'll probably cry if I talk about it too much, but I remember it was just a very raw season, where a lot of emotions, a lot of things that like maybe you didn't think were going to have to like surface, that ended up coming up, that you needed to process through. You're right. It was very heavy. It was very emotionally taking a toll. And I think that, you have the press on, keep going, but like it doesn't mean that the process is any less like daunting and hard and heartbreaking at times. And I remember like specific parts of your process of having to like go, and then there's so much of like the foster care and adoption process that you don't have control over, and like you want to be able to be a safe place for these kids, and yet there's all these rules and everything that you have to abide by that kind of force your hand to like, okay, I can't be who I want to be for these kids because of all of these things. And I think that that's not something that like you could really think about initially. I think that's more of like things that just come up. And so processing things with you, I think most of the time I just needed to, like, you just needed to talk. And so I just felt like I needed to just sit there and listen. But I mean, I remember like crying with you and like being angry with you, and being like what can we do? Something has to change in this, like this is just heartbreaking at times. And so I remember weeping with you, and just mostly just being like, just being a prayer warrior for you, and just being like, how can I you know how can I be a vessel in some way? Like, how can I take something off of your plate so that you can, breathe and feel like you're doing the right thing? And you just need, like, when people do hard things, you need cheerleaders along the way. And so I think that it's important you won't necessarily have a lot of people that are your close inner circle, but I think that that's okay, because you don't want too much noise. But I think having, those select few people that that you can be real with, that you don't have to like hide how you're feeling or what you need to talk about, because if you just stuff stuff down all the time, I mean, like that's no good for anyone. So being able to find people that you can say like, okay, I mean, I remember when there was some really bumpy periods of time where it took just about everything in you to like hold it together, and like, like your heart was in
Because
it.
they kept changing. Like, now we think we're going to move the kids this way. And we're like,
Yes.
wait. Like, well, maybe we made a mistake that we moved them so far across it. And ours was such an edge case, but just
Yeah.
the kind of impulsive reactions that it felt like the system was putting on us of like, well, you guys are 5 hours away. We think we need to put them with a family that's closer by. And we were like,
nope, we'll drive.
So, yeah, we're just going to drive more often. Like, we'll get our employers on board with that. Like, why on earth would you make kids go through all of this? But it's interesting to me, though, Haeli, a couple of things that stick out for me during that time is, one, the boundaries that we had with our kids. Some of it was because of the system. And I talk about this openly. I think I have it in the Forgotten Adoption option in the book, that like we when children are legally in the status, at least in the state of Missouri, of being in foster care, you can't sleep in the same bed. And for people that have biological children, like that's a very normal thing that you do together.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember like kneeling on the side of our kids' beds as part of bedtime prayer and bedtime song. Like I couldn't sit with them because I was so afraid of like, I don't want there to be any reason for them to get taken from us because we didn't follow the rules.
Yeah.
But we had things like that we had to be like, all right, Haeli, if you're going to like babysit for us and be with our kids, like these are things you can't do.
Yeah.
And I'm curious like how that, because you had watched other kids, you'd grown up with other families. I'm curious like what that was like for you to be like, all right, this family has different rules and I understand why they have rules, but like what was that like to have different boundaries?
I think that, you know, I was very aware of the rules and everything that goes along with this process, and so I was very hyper alert to the things that were, you know, that you did have to abide by, and I think I was very much like just in tune with that.
But you weren't scared of it. Like I never felt like you like had my kids at like 3 feet away because you're like, oh, these are different kids. Like you just loved them like they were normal, and you made them feel so normal.
Yeah. Well, I think you have to be like, it's so important for the kids to just feel loved and cared about and accepted, and you know, they need to know that they are safe. They need to know that they can talk to you and they can be, and they need to have community outside of just like you guys, outside of like mom and dad that are trying to, you know, walk through this. They need to know that there's other people in the corner too that they can, you know, talk to and rely on. And you know, whatever you have to do to be that for those kids, like I'm gonna do that. So if I have to abide by some crazy list of things so that I can be the support and I can love on these kids, like you better bet I'm gonna do every bit of it that I have to. And it is different than like other kids that I've like babysat with, you know, but at the same time, like I don't think of it as like, oh, it's so like different, you know, it's every family is different. So I don't think that there's not a one size fits all with this, you know, in general, with kids in general. There's no one size glove that fits everything. But being able to say that, I mean, just like you guys were, like, we're okay, you want to move them 10 hours away? Like, fine, we'll drive 10 hours. We'll drive 12 hours and we'll drive it overnight if we have to. And that's like, there's so many like waiting parents that are willing to do that.
Right.
And I think that needs to be talked about more, you know, that there's so many, I feel like there's a lot of like taboo things that people don't want to talk about because they either don't want to hurt any feelings, they don't want to ruffle any feathers, or they don't want to like seem disrespectful. But like maybe that's what that kid needs. Like that kid needs to know that like I'm not afraid to like say something or step up or do whatever I need to. And for that child, for those kids to be able to feel like someone's fighting for them, like that, they need that. Every kid needs that, but especially kids that are, you know, in this system, you know,
they bounced around and the connections to
they need stability. They need people that will love them and that don't have strings attached. Like, I'm going to love you because I love you. And that's been, I know that's your heart. That's been my heart the whole time too. I think that there's so many people that want to like help, and we're really not great at always saying like, you don't have to show up in this way. Like you can show up in however capacity that you can. And loving a child is not hard. Loving a child is very easy. And taking the things that come along with each kid, you know, each kid has his own or her own things that they're dealing with, but like sign me up. How can I walk with you through that? Because they need people to fight for them. So,
And I think for us, because you were such like an integral friend as a young
mhm.
married person for me, like it was very natural to ask you. And I'm thinking through like, in case listeners are listening, you're thinking, yeah, but like, Haeli, that sounds so cool, but maybe I don't have the life capacity to really like be that invested. Like I want to help. And I will, what I do remember is I remember that I didn't always know how to ask. And even when people would say like, well, how can we help? Sometimes it took the initiative. Like I remember after we met the kids we were supposed to be helping this local board game conference and we bailed on it. And they were so supportive. Like, no, you need these kids, I understand. But I remember two women sat me down and they were like, well, what do you need to set up? And I was like, I don't know, I'll get to the list tomorrow. And they sat me down and they started going through what they knew I would need because I didn't know what I needed.
Right.
And then we had a neighbor who a family member of hers worked at Target. And she was like, what do you not have? I can go get my family discount. Like, I'm going to the store for you. And it was like, oh. And it just like, she like moved a few months later. So I don't even think my kids ever met her. Yeah. But there was this moment of pause where she was like, I can help you by going to run an errand for you.
Yep.
You know, and so listeners, I just want to encourage you that like, there's so many ways to do this. It doesn't have to be the walk out the 18-month journey like Haeli did. Like there might just be like a thing or an ear, but I'm curious back on boundaries. So you're hearing from me primarily. Nathan's around. He knows you well too, but you and I are going through the grind together. I'm curious from a boundary perspective, like how then do you're not married at the time, but like you're going back to regular life. You're seeing your own, adult parents. You're seeing your sister. You're seeing just friends and you're processing this with me. So I'm curious, like, did you have certain boundaries in yourself that you held that kind of pact that we never really talked about, but it was just understood that I trusted you? Because it's like, I never felt like, because I went through things with you or we processed together, that you were telling 6 other people that then were going to call me because we had some mutual friends. Like I never felt like you. So I'm curious, like, did you have boundaries in place, Haeli? Like, did you consciously protect that?
Yes, I did. I did. Because I know how this is just a really sensitive journey, and it's really easy to especially whenever you are so focused on, like, you guys were very much like big picture. We're in this for the long haul. We're not in this to just, do it for a minute. Like this is going to be your life and you were in it. And I think that needs to be protected. And there are conversations that like you have to be able to just keep going. And those conversations don't need to be displayed for everyone else. I mean, I think that there was a lot that required you guys to be completely out of your comfort zone for a lot of things.
But you saw all that is what I'm saying. Like
yes.
you could have been like, hey world, I can see the inside.
Yeah.
This is what's going on.
But you know what? Like you trusted me to be a person, a listening ear, a voice of reason, a support system. And I think part of that is really being able to say, okay, like I can be your safe space and know that like your space is not going to be aired out by everyone and their mom. Like you need to feel like you could talk to me about things, process with me about things, be mad about things, be sad about things. Like your heart was just so raw, during that. And that needs to be taken care of. And you can't do that if you're basically playing telephone. Like you hear something, you come and tell me about something, and then I go tell 5 people. Like that's not what's best. And I think that there's a time and a place, but I also think that like the people that are walking through, the parents that are wanting to adopt and do the foster care process, like that's your role to decide who you want to share things with. And I get the gift of being able to be one of those people that you share stuff with. And that to me it's a privilege. And that's not something that I'm going to just go share with other people. So I think protecting your safe space is very important. And if you do want to be a support system for someone that is walking through this process, which they need, like people that are walking through this process need people that they can count on, and they need people that they can trust. And sometimes that means keeping things between you guys until you're ready to talk about it with somebody else. You know, especially when this was all happening, we referred to like little brother or older brother, big brother, little sister, you know, like protecting their names, protecting their identities, because it's not, we're not just like playing around here. Like these are kids and their lives and their hearts, and that's not something to just be talking about with everyone. Like that's not my job. My job in this was to be supportive for you.
Which you nailed the job.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to hear, because it sounds like you were very intentional. And I'm hoping listeners, because I know a lot of you are in helper professions, I know many of you do careers that help other people, you're probably thinking, I am that friend like Haeli, like, of course. And then I'm hoping we're all also saying, like, I love that you have a friend like Haeli. Like, what an incredible friendship, that, like, there was never this, will you pinky promise this or that. It was just this, like, trust and this friendship and this commitment to, like, okay, wherever this road takes us, like, we're just going to figure it out. And that road took us to adoption. And I remember, so we had an adoption day hearing. And it was with family and friends. My in-laws hosted it at their house, which was the same place where Nathan and I got married, in their yard. But the night before, so we show up at the party and there's like all this extra stuff, because apparently the night before you coordinated with his mom and you like show up with these special touches. Where on earth, in the midst of all of this whirlwind of my life, where did you get this? I'm going to bring over some games and I'm going to like think, like, where did that come from?
You know, I think that, well, first of all, I love throwing parties. I love to like make people
feel like birthdays too.
I do. I love to make people feel special and celebrated, you know, and with this in particular, I made it to where it was very much like a game board.
There's like
board
guess
games.
Who was there? It was stuff we didn't have.
It was.
And we have board games, but like we didn't have this stuff.
You do have board games. You have so many board games. I'm so jealous.
We're sitting in our board game room. So
yes. As I look at all the games, I'm like, man, I just need to start taking inventory here.
Just borrow whatever you want.
No, but I remember like playing games. That's something that like I remember doing with. You do that with family. You do that with friends. It's something that you do. You sit at a table and you play a game. And that's something that, like, I think that when you have walked through what you and Nathan walked through and getting to the finish line, like you just want to be able to celebrate and be able to have fun and create memories. And like, what better way to do that than like playing with board games, you know? Like, I loved Guess Who. Like, I loved Battleship and being able to like create those memories like with your kids.
Hey, I remembered the right game. Okay, this wasn't like Lucky Charms meets
oh
my
gosh.
we and like it was cute because I thought you brought them to play at the party, but I think as we were cleaning up, there was no, this is for you all to take home, and so we're like this stack of board games, and I was like, how thoughtful, like how super sweet.
Yeah. Well, it was my joy to be able to do that, and I know that the kids I knew that they would love it. I knew that they would love to be able to sit and play games with their mom and dad, and it is a joy that I can help in any way, shape, or form. And so if I can provide some board games, then I'm going to do that. So, but the whole theme of the game, like the board game theme, was just very much like family and family time. And it was great. It was so fun. I vividly remember the day that the adoption was, the hearing happened, and the whole room was filled, and you legitimately stood up and like named every single person that was in that room. And it was a very moving. I remember just crying because I'm like, man, like she walked us for so long. There was so much prep before this process even started, and I was like with you through that, and then walking through all of it, through the hard, through the thick, through the heavy, and like knowing that even after the adoption had gone through and you guys were going to be a forever family, but knowing that like this is not just stopping here, like this is going to be a forever long process of learning and growing. And it was just incredibly moving, and I'm so thankful that I just got to play a small role in that and being able to
You say small. It's a pretty giant role, Haeli. And I'm curious because my kids, like, they think of you, and we don't call you Aunt Haeli, but like we think of you in the sentiment of that because you're just like we've known, like we were at your wedding, and like they know you become a mom, and like they know Miss Haeli. And so I'm curious, like, what is that for you to know that you've been part of their lives in such a sweet, consistently present adult way? Like what is that? It's almost like you are an aunt. Like how does that feel to know that you have made that impact?
I feel very blessed and very privileged to be able to have that place, especially for them. It's an honor. It really is an honor to be able to be support and to be able to love on them. And I love that we are a family. And that I get to just have a front row seat and what happens. And I love that they love me, and I love that I get to love them. And it's just so sweet I mean, we already have so many like fun memories. I mean, like there's been crazy times that have just been, just awesome memories that I can hold on to. And so being able to be a vessel in that way for them, just being able to be hands and feet for kids whenever they need it, even whenever they don't need it, just knowing that they know that I'll always be here for them to support them and do whatever I can. It just shows that like family is so much more than just your immediate family. Like family just goes beyond that, and it takes the village. And so I'm happy to be part of the village for sure.
Just super special. And so final question as we close is a theme that sticks out for me is that this is our friendship just in general, is I don't ever really, aside from like, Haeli, will you get respite certified? I don't ever remember ever really saying like, Haeli, can you be this person? Because I didn't even know that we needed that. And I'm wondering, because it was like you intuitively like knew. So for our listeners that are like, how did you know? Like, can you share how you were aware of our unmet needs and maybe some tips you have for how they might initiate? Because I know you were saying earlier that sometimes like sometimes it's taboo, so you don't know what to do. And I feel like the earlier in this journey, Marcy was a little prickly because some of the things we got asked, like where I was like, oh my gosh, like, why are you asking that? But then I've learned over time that like, it's actually, I very much encourage just ask it if it comes out sideways, because then we can talk through it. And part of the role on that side of the journey as the foster adoptive parent is, they don't really tell you in training, but like you're now an educator. Like you now are supposed to be bringing awareness and educating because people just don't know. And so they see you and it can ask. And I've had to grow in that area. But for you, how did you know? And what can listeners be doing to initiate that? Because maybe they're thinking, what if it is Marcy in kind of the prickly stage? Like, I don't want to like say something to my friend that's new in this and set them off or like come across sideways. Like how do you balance that? And what could you be doing?
I think that the needs and the questions may shift in different periods of time. So I think that there's also a time and a place to ask certain things. So, I mean, if someone's in the heat of a moment, it's probably not best to ask something that like might just be another like gut punch, to them, but like waiting until there's stillness, like until there's a moment of calm to then be able to maybe talk about the harder things. But it is a learning curve, because it does take the adoptive parents to be able to have grace with people that are trying to help, because there are going to be conversations and questions that seem like they're trying to attack when really they could just be they're just trying to figure out how best to help. And so it does take grace on both ends.
Totally agree.
And I think being patient, because I remember like periods of time where it was harder for you to hear something than in a different period of time. And for me to know that I'm not going to take what you say personally at times, because I know that you're processing and walking through a lot. And so I think being able to not take things personally is important.
As the friend.
Yes, as the friend, because
that's interesting, but it makes sense.
Yeah, because there's just a time and a place. But I think being able to be completely transparent and honest, and even saying like, hey, I don't know if this is something that I should do or shouldn't do, but I feel like I would rather ask and just know for the future than like not ask and there being a need that I'm not meeting because I'm afraid to ask. So,
and I don't remember having friction with you, so I can't think of like, because we just had such an openness in our friendship, like there was trust there, and I don't remember anything my kids ever saying. I feel like you just met them with whatever came out.
Yeah.
But it does sound like, I think what my takeaway from this whole episode, Haeli, is that how much of kind of a sounding board you were.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that was you. And I'm so grateful you were there. But I think now that I am where I am and I'm still coaching families through this, like that is the part of the journey that's the hardest, is just feeling like you don't have to, as the friend, you don't have to have answers for me. But man, I just need to talk about this sometimes because like, it's hard.
It is hard. There's a lot of tears that were going through this and still to this day. So,
Haeli, this has been so, I think for me, reminiscent or whatever the word would be, about just heartwarming to hear about that season that we carried together. But it's so neat to, like, as adults in a different season now, have those memories together. And I mean, you've moved in that time, our lifestyles have changed in that time, but yet just walking alongside has been key. And so I'm so grateful that we could reflect back and impart some of Haeli to our listeners. Because I mean, being that friend, like, you really, I've been saying this for a long time, like, you don't have to adopt to make a huge impact in this space.
Yeah.
You don't have to be the parent. So I really appreciate you. You got childcare taken care of, so we can get sit on the couch and do this episode.
Yeah. Well, you are one of my very best friends. And so I'm so thankful that I just got to, again, just play a small role. And you know what? Just, there's so many ways to show up. You just show up. That's that was my call from the very beginning. Just show up, be an ear, be hands and feet. However you can be that in your capacity. So it's possible. It's possible, and it's a joy to do. I'd do it again, all over again.
Thank you so much for spending time with us. It truly matters that you listen today, because by tuning in, you're opening your heart to the stories of children in foster care, sparking empathy and starting to see how your unique role, whether as a friend, advocate, or even as a future adoptive parent, can bring hope and belonging to a child or sibling group that is waiting. I also want to personally invite you to reach out to me to ask anything that's on your heart. I promise no judgment. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and I mean it when I say you can ask anything. I know it can feel awkward to ask questions publicly, and that's why I carve out time during my lunch hour and evenings while my kids and husband are at martial arts to mentor others one-on-one. Your questions matter, your curiosity matters, and most importantly, the role you are playing in helping children in foster care matters. Together, we can bring hope and belonging. Until next time, take care and keep the conversation going.